minutes of smooth sailing aboard the Tinian ferry, we finally arrived in the island of Saipan. The island is approximately 13 miles long and close to 6 miles wide. More than 60,000 people call this place their home. Although Saipan is similar to the island of Guam, the stories and documented history behind World War II seem to be much different from one another. Just as we have the War in the Pacific Memorial Parks on Guam, Saipan was able to build the American Memorial Park with the help of the federal government. The lives honored here include the American and Marianas people who gave their lives during the war. Picture this. In 1944, 15 battleships were involved in more than 165,000 shells were fired off. These photographs were taken by armed forces videographers because much of the war was not covered by local media. Park Ranger Nancy Kelchner.
When it came, of course, with 4 days of shelling from the Navy, from the Philippine Sea. So all of the Garapan, all of the east coast here, the west coast was just pummeled into nothing. 2,000-pound pieces of ordnance was being shelled onto the island, one every second.
I knew the Battle of Saipan was still fresh in the minds of the local people, since those days were much talked about during our tour around the island. My photographer Farah and I were able to go on an eco tour hosted by the Marianas Trekking Company, where they took us to 2 additional memorial sites known to many. It was said that hundreds of Japanese civilians committed suicide in the last days of battle, jumping from Suicide Cliff and Banzai Cliff. It was reported that U.S. troops attempted to persuade these Japanese to surrender. Instead, they decided to jump to their deaths. Tour guide supervisor Joe Naraibu.
Suicide is, I think everybody know. This is like with the end up of World War II, when it's about 900 Japanese soldiers jump up from top to the bottom, and this is kind of like considers like a mass suicide for Japanese soldiers during the war. Banzai is, I consider, it's like mostly civilians in history. It's mostly civilians, children and all older people. That's less soldiers probably. And Banzai is different than suicide because Banzai is about, I think it's only like about 40 feet down, but down is ocean.
In the end, close to 22,000 Japanese civilians and at least 30,000 troops died, while another 14,000 Americans were either killed, wounded, or missing in action out of the 71,000 people who landed on the island. While most of its history dates back to the years of World War II, Saipan also has ancient Chamorro sites, and this is one of them. Calavera Cave was once an ancient Chamorro cemetery. Just a couple of years ago, archaeologists discovered ancient human remains here. You'll also find ancient pictographs or signs only the ancient Chamorros understood. This was not only a cemetery, it was also once used as a jailhouse during the Spanish time. Although we learned mostly about the history of the island, we were also introduced to its many recreational activities. One thing we figured out is that it's a must that you find time to snorkel. During our trekking tour, our tour guides took us to this beautiful place, also known as the Grotto. You're guaranteed to see a couple of baby sharks and various types of exotic fish, since the pool of water goes over 100 feet down. But our first challenge is to get there. You would have to hike down 116 steps, which seem to narrow out as you get to the bottom. This is much like Guam's version of 1,000 steps. If that's too difficult for you to handle, you can also check out the local beaches. I've had my fun at this one, as the tour guides were able to lend us snorkeling gear and our very own kayak. Getting on the kayak was half the battle, but we finally made it. We ended the day with a barbecue at the beach. It was the perfect day. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Michelle Cadahay.